Last election cycle, I had a conversation with a friend who was currently up for re-election to the legislature. As he entered the race, he expressed to me his desire to run solely on principles and not what would necessarily get him elected. It was more important to him to lead through example and to stand for the principles of liberty than to win. Thankfully, for those of us in Whatcom County and in Washington State, he was re-elected and has been a leader in the legislature on issues concerning illegal detention, food freedom, and the right of the people to defend themselves from all threats, foreign and domestic. It's my pleasure to introduce to you Representative Jason Overstreet.
Wow, thanks, Barb. And I really owe Barb a debt of gratitude for even inviting me here. I'm quite frankly humbled to be part of your state convention. For those of you who don't know me, my name is Jason Overstreet. This is my home, Whatcom County. So for those of you who aren't from Whatcom County, welcome, and I'm certainly glad that you chose to have your state convention here. You know, correct me if I'm wrong, but it was Ronald Reagan who said the heart and soul of conservatism is libertarianism. Is that incorrect? It's not incorrect. You know what? We share so many likenesses because of that statement, and that is a true statement. While we may not agree on everything, we agree that the heart and soul of conservatism, just like Reagan, is libertarianism. Personal freedom, right? Freedom to own property. Freedom to protect yourself with firearms. Freedom to have sound money and not have your retirement stolen through the immoral taxation, as Ron Paul puts it, of inflation, right? But I want to back up a little bit. I want to show you how insane things have become. And you probably won't even be able to see what's in my hand, but I want to do it anyways. Can everybody see what this is? You see what that is? See what that is, Larry?
No.
It's a little MP5 looking thing. I think it's from a Lego guy. It's got a cool flashlight on it. Our kids are being suspended from school for bringing things like this to school. Kids are getting in trouble for wearing t-shirts that have firearms on the front of them. Folks, our freedoms are under siege. And I don't care if you're a Democrat, if you're a Republican, if you're a Libertarian, or something else. Our freedoms are under siege. And you know what? Having spent now 3 years in Olympia, I can tell you that it is not one party that's responsible. Three things, and Barb brought all three of them up, that have sort of, two of them I've worked on in the first term, and the third one was added this year. Indefinite detention. I was a prime sponsor of what is now 1581 2 years ago, and you know I couldn't get traction on that bill for anything, but you know what, this year, broad bipartisan support. Broad bipartisan support. I ran a bill 2 years ago to eliminate an arbitrary income cap on cottage foods. Did you know that the state is going to bless you with the right to make non-potentially hazardous jams, jellies, and fruit butters in your home, but you can only make $15,000? So my bill simply says, let's remove that arbitrary income cap. I ran that this year, a little bit of bipartisan support, still didn't make it out of committee. The third thing that we worked on this year, drones. Ooh. Unmanned aerial vehicles, whatever makes you feel safer, okay? Broad bipartisan support. And do you know what killed it? The gentleman who was just up here. Profits before people. That's what killed that bill. Boeing stepped in at the last minute, sent a fleet of corporate lobbyists to Olympia and said this will just devastate us. Really? You know, all we asked for in that bill, and quite frankly, I think that bill is probably too broad as it sits today. We said, warrant. You either have a warrant to use an unmanned aerial vehicle or it's an exigent circumstance. And here's where you should be concerned. Not good enough. And I remember sitting in front of one of the lobbyists that is the largest law enforcement lobby. And I said, look guys, this is what you have to understand. You guys lost this battle in the court of opinion, public opinion, a long time ago. And if you want the confidence of the public, you are going to put sideboards on the use of this technology that is virtually endless. And they said, no, thank you. If you guys think you're going to put these things up in the air and run them until the batteries die, just collecting endless data to be looked at later, you're going to lose that battle in the court of public opinion. We're not asking to ban these things. What we are saying is you will have a warranted situation, or it will be an exigent circumstance where life or property is in danger. They said no thank you, and then Boeing came in and said, we want to put profits before people. And you know what? That was a bipartisan death blow to that bill. Do not blame Republicans. And do not just blame Democrats. We've got to be really brutally honest with ourselves. And I think that's why you guys are having this convention. We got to be really brutally honest with ourselves and get down to brass tacks. You need to find those candidates who, while you may not always agree with, you know where they stand. And you know that when they stand in front of you and say, I'm going to work this issue, I'm going to work this issue, and I'm going to work this issue. And oh, by the way, this is where I stand on this issue. And I know you may disagree with me, but that's where I stand, and here's why. You have to find those candidates, and you have to do everything you can to get them elected. And once they're elected, you have to do everything you can to hold them accountable. Because you know what happens? First couple of years, you're sort of green, you're new, you're figuring it out. No one's really paying attention to you. They're going to let you get your feet settled. And then the next term, you get a little more comfortable. The next term, you may find yourself in a leadership position. The next term, you're just falling on all kinds of leadership swords because, well, that's the way this place works, kid. And where has that gotten us? Into mind-numbing debt at the federal level. The same amount of debt in context is happening at the state levels, folks. It's happening there too. Massive tax increases. The nationalization of health care. Do you know that every budget in Olympia implements Obamacare, expands Medicaid? Did you know that? Yes. No one can explain how it's going to be paid for, but everyone's lunging full speed ahead. I look forward to working with the Republican Party, with the Democrat Party where I can, with the Libertarian Party, and educating my kids in the fundamental principles of freedom. And you know what's funny? This is the first room where I have ever, from the podium, heard the title "The Creature from Jekyll Island" talked about openly. And that gives me great hope. I had the privilege of introducing Congressman Ron Paul in Vancouver, Washington during the presidential primaries. Folks, some of you may have been there. They had to shut that room down. The fire marshal came in and said, no more. There were like 3,000 people inside of a banquet room. And do you know that little old man, that's how his opponents address it. He's just this little old man. That little old man stands there and says nothing earth-shattering other than you have to have sound money. You have to acknowledge personal freedoms. You've got to limit the size and scope of government. And you know what? Tax dollars don't de facto belong to you. And he has revolutionized the conversation. I like to say he started a grass fire with a 40-mile-an-hour tailwind that's headed uphill. And do you know where you guys can help? Social media. That is where that grass fire continues today, and that's where the battle will be won. Keep up the good work. Barb, thanks again, and to all the leadership for having me speak. I hope you guys have a great rest of your conference. Thank you very much.